Loud and Color Studio presents The Single Files with B.Kadijat. Hey you guys, it's your girl B.Kadijat, your digital girlfriend. Welcome to The Single Files. Now initially, my podcast was created to talk about, the season of being single, just from all perspectives, and not necessarily just from a romantic perspective, but just from life in general, and how that kind of impacts the way that we move, the way that we think, and how we interact with one another. I created this podcast in hopes to create space and exploring, all these various topics and discuss some nuances that we see in this season. But I think this week is a little different. One, I have to apologize because, for the few followers that I have, this podcast would have already been out. Well, this episode would have already been out. But just due to the recent, national climate that we have been in with this election, I needed a few days to really just kind of process and just kind of feel the feels. So this is coming out a bit late. So give me some grace, or actually I'm just going to take it. So this week's hot topic, we are going to discuss the recent election, which has left most people in a tizzy. And I want to speak specifically towards my women. Of course, I want to talk about Black women and how this election has made us feel, but just I think as women as a whole, and where it places our nation, and just how it kind of impacts our mental health. So, as you all may know, the nation that we live in has recently elected a person who ran the most sexist, racist, and elitist campaign in history. With the soon-to-be 47th president entering into office, it's going to be a lot of change in the landscape within our country. Through this unfortunate decision, it leaves us in questioning, where do we go from here specifically for women, And I want to talk about that. So let's just hop right into today's topic. So I don't know who exactly was in this position, but on election night, I decided to go to bed at probably about midnight. I was over watching everything and seeing how things were going to play out because the numbers from the start just seemed very off to me. I don't want to spend too much time on my political views, but I will say when I did wake up at about 3 a.m. hour and woke up to my timeline, my social media timelines showing who the winner was, I immediately went through doom scrolling of going down the timelines of what people were saying, how people were reacting from both sides. And it didn't really hit me until later on in the morning, probably around 9 a.m. I haven't discussed this openly, but I am currently unemployed. Although I am a publicist, if you do follow me on social media, I am currently unemployed. I don't have a lot of active clients right now, so things have been slow for me. But I've always had a passion for, content creating, and I definitely wanted to do this podcasting. Anyway, so I woke up and I was getting ready for a job interview. And, I went to the bathroom, getting my hair together, getting my makeup. And I'm just thinking about how everything played out. And I just immediately just kind of just bursted into tears because it just had me thinking, to myself, why isn't being a Black woman good enough? That's all I can think about. And in that, I have a lot of musical connections. So, music is really therapy for me. So through that, I just kept hearing Solange's song, Weary. And The Ways of the World is really wearing me the fuck out. Okay? And I'm trying not to curse on here, but I really want to emphasize how this election and not necessarily just this election, the things that's going to be happening come the new year that is going to directly impact me, impact other people of color, but most specifically Black women, and where our nation and how our nation sees us. And with the disappointing defeat of Kamala Harris, I would have to say not only was it disappointing, but it was more disheartening that after all of these years, a Black woman cannot be given her flowers, cannot be given her things to run a country. And to go even a little bit further, her opponent, who I just would never give light on this platform, let me make that very clear, how he has blatantly made it very clear on where his stance is with people of color and how he views us. And if you don't have certain things and you aren't aligned properly, such as being a legal immigrant in this country, your chances of being here and your days being here are numbered. And it touched me because I am a firstborn Nigerian. My parents came to the States in the late 70s, early 80s in hopes to, create a better life for themselves and the family that they envisioned in creating. And just knowing that there are other families that followed suit to come here, even to, in 2024, coming to this country in hopes to, start a new life, be able to get more better opportunities from an economical standpoint, from an educational standpoint. But they don't have the financial resources to be able to go through the proper steps to become legalized in the country. And their hard work and the chances that they took to even come over here is going to be snatched away from them because of what one man thinks about a particular group of people. It's just disheartening. And outside of that, I think about how Black women are being directly impacted. And just to kind of weigh in us a little bit, Black women were the 92%. They showed up. 92% of Black women voted for Kamala Harris, rightfully so, right? But that still wasn't good enough because white women voted against Kamala Harris. White men voted against Kamala Harris. Latino men voted against Kamala Harris. And this is not me, just saying anything. The stats are out there, so if you just so happen to come across this podcast and to see me, just so hear about this, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. So that's that. But I think the biggest issue that I'm having right now is that I have to face and I have to deal with, just as not only just a single woman, but there are married women, there are divorced women, there are lesbian women who desire to have the proper reproductive health resources. And we are potentially going to be denied that because of what one person thinks that we should and should not have. And it goes more than just abortion. It goes for having the proper, medical support that we need in these hospitals, having the proper physicians taking care of us. Black women are at the highest mortality rate ever. And having certain things such as Roe versus Wade in place was a level of protection that we needed. And people voted against that. People voted against potentially being reinstated. People have been against for it to even be on the table of conversation. So they're just seeing it as, women just want this as a contraceptive act, when in all actuality, this can be a preventative mechanism that could possibly save a life. I think about women such as myself who desire to have kids one day, who have to take steps as potentially egg freezing or going through IVF and possibly doing this alone. And that option may not be available to me because of who the nation decided to have in office, and it breaks my heart. I think about women who are going through the IVF process now and who may feel a little bit of level of pressure that they have to pray that their body just accepts or conceives a child, because who knows if they'll be able to go through another round come the new year. It's just so many unanswered questions that we have, and it puts me in a really ugly mind space of why our nation hates black women so much. And I just think about some of the conversations that I've had with other people, and how they were triggered. Mostly black women, because honestly, I don't really care to have conversations with any other group of women except black women. So having conversations of some women feeling triggered, some women who have been victims of assault. You know, what if the cards had to work against them, and abortion was no longer an option for them? The conversation just goes so deep than it just being a contraception. Women have lost their lives because of the lack of resources that some of these states have taken away from them. A couple of white women actually even just passed away. I can't remember their names, but I do remember seeing a couple of white women lost their lives unexpectedly, and unnecessarily, because of the lack of resources that were available, because of Roe versus Wade was not a thing in their state. And I can go on and on about this and how this has really triggered and opened up a lot of emotional walls. But I think these type of conversations need to happen because we need to get serious about our bodies. We need to get serious about having more of these hard conversations, because it's white men in office right now who really feel like it is okay to tell a woman how to operate her body, which women don't have control of their bodies when they're carrying for 9 months. So how is it that you, as a man who don't even know what a period even feels like, can tell a woman how she should be able to function and carry out a pregnancy? It's just mind-blowing to me. And the fact that women have fought tooth and nail just to even have space in a room and are being denied. We're being denied, period. Like I can't even wrap my mind around how in 2024 we are still in the space of women have to be told what they can and cannot have, but specifically black women are being told that your reproductive health does not matter. Your positioning in these corporate offices do not matter. You are a number. And I just think about Weary and how the ways of the world really is wearing me the fuck out. And I get tired of just feeling, not even just knowing, but just feeling that we do not belong. And so when are we going to be good enough? When are we going to be good enough to be loved? When are we going to be good enough to be protected? When are we going to be good enough to be able to just lead? My heart continues to break just thinking about I may or may not be able to comfortably and successfully conceive kids if I have to take alternative routes. And even if I do take the natural route, am I going to be fully protected if things just so happen to go wrong? These are all things that I think about, specifically being single. And I also think about like future issues that are meaningful to me. One of the things definitely is DEI and affirmative action. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are quietly dissolving for most organizations. We're not really talking about it, but I've seen a lot of women, black women, who did hold these roles. They have stepped down from their roles because they were practically was forced out. Where does that leave us for someone who is still in their mid-level career season? You know, is there space for me to continue to elevate into higher C-suite roles? I think about that. Another thing I think about is affirmative action. Affirmative action has basically became, or is becoming, taboo. Affirmative action has allowed a lot of us to be able to enter into a lot of general market spaces, such as being able to go to a Big Ten university, such as I did, being able to have advantages of receiving scholarships. I didn't receive a scholarship, but I definitely had a huge opportunity in going to one of the most successful universities in the country, which is now considered an Ivy League school, which is the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. Affirmative action did that. That's being stripped away. This new 47th president wants to dissolve the Department of Education. Do y'all hear how crazy that shit sounds? Like, do y'all understand that? I have a goddaughter who I pray wants to go to the finest institution and receive the finest education that this world can ever give her. And she may be denied that because of the color of her skin. She may be denied access to go to these universities because you will probably have to pay out of pocket to even go. Who can afford to even get an education from a community college the way that life has been late as of late? I think about these things. And the fact that this country has allowed these things to happen, I cannot wrap my mind around it. And I don't even know if prayer is even strong enough. I mean, nothing can outbeat prayer, but there has to be some more forward things that need to be done outside of that. Because for the next 4 years, we have to deal with the chaos that's coming out of that White House because of one particular person who has these out of this world ideas of what the nation should look like from his eyes. It is crazy as hell to me. And I believe that this nation failed Black women. They have failed Black people. They have failed people of color. And I'm tired. But I'll say this. Black women, I applaud you for all of the work that you have done thus far. I applaud you for showing up to work every day. I applaud you for dealing with the daily stresses and still putting a smile on your face. Because let me tell you something. As I've gotten older, I have learned and I have seen how Black women are not given the space to sit in their emotions. Let me explain. As we've gotten older, a lot of my friends have became parents. A lot of my friends became spouses, probably even both. And when the daily stresses happen, you don't get a moment to be upset. You have to be upset and still function. I've even experienced it myself. Loosely speaking, when my father passed away in 2020, I did not have a moment to grieve. I had 24 hours to put him in the ground because he's a Muslim. And in that 24 hours, I had to get documentation signed off on, make sure that, his funeral arrangements was in place. Me and my mother, and I thank God for my mother because she didn't have a moment to grieve either. We just had to function. And on top of that, I had an actual job interview that day that I had to cancel right after me finding out of my father's passing. But then I didn't have a moment to sit in my feelings. And I just kept moving. I had to keep moving. When I had to cry, I'll cry, but I had to keep moving. When I had a bad moment at work, I just had to have a bad moment at work. But hey, I still got to show up to a meeting. I have to have calls. I have to lead out and give instructions to my team. These are things that as Black women, we experience. And these are not moments that are colorful. These are very dark, emotional moments. And we don't have anybody rubbing our back to tell us it's okay. We don't have anybody to just be like, you know what, girl, you got this. We have to be our own cheerleaders. We have to be our own coaches. We have to be our own therapists. We just have to carry the world on us day in and day out. So I just want to applaud Black women for being the beautiful creatures that you all are, for being the goddesses that you all are, and how you show up in the world, because honestly, this society they don't deserve us. And that was shown on election day. So I don't want to spend too much time on harping on election day, but I did want to just share where my mind is in regards to how election day has created this weary spirit, but it has also created this spirit of rest, because I'm not doing a damn thing that comes to promoting, to trying to protect any other group of people that is not Black. So she's going to quietly sit back and let everyone else feel the stresses that us as Black women have been trying to help avoid for decades, for generations to generations. We are sitting this one out. So I just wanted to keep this ting brief. Thank you all for letting me just get my shit out. Again, I apologize for getting this episode out late, but this was a very unfiltered, unstructured conversation that I just thought that I just wanted to just quickly have with you all. If you all have thoughts, please share. Drop your comments down, and we can kind of keep this conversation going. But I'm your girl, B.Kadijat. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.